you see, the case of ECOWAS, it has a protocol. There was a treaty, and in that protocol, it allows for movement, free movement of goods, people, and services across the countries. So you can imagine Nigeria, for example, the entire northern Nigeria, about 5 or 6 states or thereabouts, have got boundaries with Niger Republic. And in fact, if you get there, what you find is that the people actually live very closely like brothers and sisters. So, when the president or the junta in Niger says they are pulling out of ECOWAS, I'm not very sure that he has really thought about the full implication, because the implication now means that that border has to be closed somehow, and there has to be a different memorandum of understanding as to how there will be movement of people across the border. And, what about the families? What about goods? What about services? And don't forget that Nigeria has had a long-term relations with Niger Republic, whether Nigeria provides them power, Nigeria assists them in security. And in the last administration, there was even an attempt to have the rail project get into Maradi, so that we can now ensure that goods can be, imported through Nigeria into Niger Republic. So these are all of the issues and benefits that actually arise as a result of being brothers and, of course, becoming part of ECOWAS. And now, all of a sudden, they are saying that they are pulling out. I don't know how this is going to look like, because Article 91, basically, of the ECOWAS Treaty talked about the withdrawal. It says, Article 91, subsection 1, that says that any member states wishing to withdraw from the community shall give to the executive secretary 1 year notice in writing, who shall inform member states thereof. At the expiration of this period, if such notice is not withdrawn, such a state shall cease to be a member of the community. The second subsection 2 there says that during the period of the 1 year, such a member state shall continue to comply with the provisions of this treaty and shall remain bound to discharge its obligations under the treaty. So, I mean, these are laws, these are treaties that has been made over the years, So I also don't, maybe I will use as a notice that they've given, but I believe that finding solutions, we must resort to diplomatic solutions to these impacts.
Indeed, because there are treaties which essentially are agreements, but as you said, they also, have the force of law behind them. Now, it's clear, as you mentioned inter alia there, that they've lost patience with France. You don't need to be an expert for your eyes to be boggled at the conditions under which France and Niger, for instance, are existing. I don't think it will be acceptable to any Nigerian. The whole matter of the central bank, you know everything about France, and it's unimaginable to a Nigerian. Now, these people, especially in Niger, they've sort of, I don't want to imply that they've been sleeping all this while, but they have said that thus far and no further. We are sick and tired of it. We can't continue to live like this. And then also importantly, this is what our people want. Now, people like us, Nigeria, big brother, so-called, we see it from a point of view of it's no more fashionable to have these coups, and indeed, nobody should be talking about coups in any of the member states. But they say that we are being unsympathetic to their aspirations. And they've all but considered us as an enemy. They haven't gone quite as far, but some of the things they've been doing have not been very, very friendly in terms of diplomatic protocol. They've refused to meet with some people, some eminent people that went to sort of mediate in issues. So it's like they've had it up to here, and they seem to be saying that that is, the rest of ECOWAS and all its treaties and all its laws simply don't understand. Now, do you think it is important that they seem to have the popular support of their people in wanting to go their own way if, as they have phrased it, Nigeria and the rest of ECOWAS are not supporting them?
Okay, here, you've made a very salient point in this conversation, and there are two things, and I'd like to have them separated. There has been concerns over the years with respect to the role the French government have played in Africa. It's been very worrisome, and as someone that is involved in international relations and diplomacy, it has come to a time where I believe that Africa needs to sit back and rethink their engagement with Europe and some of the Western world. A lot has happened, and if you go back into history, there has actually been an unacceptable relations, and with respect to what France and some of these francophone countries have been through over the years. I totally understand that, and whatever form of resistance, I understand that we need to find a way to address those issues. Another question is, to what extent will a coup d'etat, what role or how does a coup d'etat really help in addressing these issues? And I liken it to saying that it is easy for them to come out and say that this is what our country wants, this is what the people want. But you know that anybody that takes over, if people are going through any kind of difficulty, even in Nigeria, for example, when there's an election, you're likely to find people saying that this is what our people want. You're also likely to find other people from the other point of view to say that this is also not what our people want. Well, this is not what our people want. So I understand the challenge of saying that this is what people want. But in this era, we have grown to a level where we believe that whatever changes we want to see, whatever policy amendments we intend to have in our government with respect to engagement with the rest of the world, we must find a system that is legitimate under the democratic rule to be able to carry out those amendments. What am I saying? I'm saying that they've got their state and national assemblies, they've got their legislative arm of government, they've got their executive arm of government. They must find a way to sit down and rethink and find a way to address the concerns that they have, especially with respect to the relations that they have with France. I mean, it's not, this is not what I think I need to discuss now, but clearly, the roles that these European nations have played in Africa has actually been totally unacceptable. It's like, I once was Nigerian ambassador to Burundi, and I was very close to DRC. And I could understand the reason why there can never be peace in DRC. I can understand the role that European nations played in Africa. They just sat down somewhere in Berlin and then brought out a map and then begin to split it amongst themselves. And clearly, this is how you now have Germany controlling this part, Britain controlling this part, France controlling this part, and so on and so forth. These guys have actually done what is totally unacceptable within the continent. But the idea or the issue is, have you found yourself in this kind of situation? What do you do? It won't take time. Even if the junta continues to become, to lead the country, after some time, they are going to get worried. Under what arrangement? When are they going to have the next elections? Whose turn will it be to produce the leader, and at what point? And all of these issues. So I believe very well that rightly they have concerns, they've expressed their concerns, which I believe that what needs to happen is for the people to give back power to, under a democratically elected government. They need to begin to sit down and make laws and make policies and bring the issues up at the regional body. Part of the strong pillars of this administration is support for democracy. If you look at the Mr. President 4D doctrine for his foreign policy, the first is democracy. Nigeria is now one of the largest democracies within the continent. We've been, since 1999 up until now, we have transited from one democratically elected government to another. So basically what Mr. President is saying, that he stands for democracy. His support for democracy, both across the region and across the continent, is unrivaled. So as far as Nigeria is concerned, it's important that whatever challenges that they have as a nation, there must be democratically elected government that will need to sit down and look at these issues and begin to engage with the regional body and with the continent and even with the rest of the world under a very under a platform that makes the conversation easier to have. And we cannot say that our people want this. I mean, I will continue to draw the inference from our relations between Nigeria and Niger. How do you now begin to come and say that, no, you now need visas to come into Nigeria? Where does the borders actually even exist? Some of these borders are even virtual in my thinking. You see, people are just moving across and all of that, and all of a sudden you see, because the regional body has instituted sanctions, therefore you now require visa. Things are going to be much more harder for these countries. There's no two ways about that. Once people cannot move from one location to another, once you now begin to place tariffs, so for you to now move goods from Nigeria to Niger Republic or to any of these countries, you have to pay tariff. For you to fly into the countries, there are different and renegotiated BASA agreements and all of that. So I'm not very sure that these three countries has thought through this. I think this is a direct response to the frustration that came as a result of the sanctions. But like I said again, this is international relations, this is diplomacy. I believe, with the whole of my heart, that within this 1 year period, everybody will come to the table and look at the pros and cons of this decision. And I believe that there will eventually we will come to a diplomatic solution to address this impasse.
That is if they are agreeable to following the rule that you are implying there, that particular article that we put up there, that, member countries need to give a year. And during that time, they will do all the needful, all their obligations, they will carry them out. So if they are agreeable, I imagine, okay, yeah, that will give time for all these diplomatic overtures to take place.